This is the Refuge Project.
Welcome to the Refuge Project. The Refuge Project is a place that we can have meaningful conversation in a safe place. We have a special guest today. We got Leo Torres, a YouTuber that I've actually been watching for a little bit now, and I'm super excited for him to come on. I guess I got on the game just a little bit after you got started. You probably had 30 or 40 videos, and I was just looking over your channel now, man. You put out some videos, man, and it's good to see you're super busy with it, and man, just going back and seeing that. Okay, so before we go there, like your first two videos were Spanish videos, right?
Right.
Yeah. So right. I'm married to a Mexican, so sometimes I make Mexican jokes because sometimes I forget I'm white. Okay. Yeah. I grew up around the culture and all that, so sometimes I forget I'm white. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit like how the channel started with the two Mexican videos, Hispanic videos, and that music.
Okay. Originally, I wanted to just create a channel. Oh, first of all, thank you for having me on. I appreciate you.
For sure.
Yeah.
Inviting me.
Thanks for being here.
Originally, I started the channel with the intention of just posting some of my performances because I'm a musician. I play guitar, and my grandfather taught me how to play guitar, and he taught me all the Spanish romantic, love songs that you would usually get hired for, like to serenade someone or like special occasions and things like that. And I just wanted to have a channel where I can upload those types of videos, and then if anybody had any questions about what I sounded like, they can turn to that channel. When COVID hit, I wanted to turn it into a channel of teaching kids how to play guitar, and I wanted to do it for free online, just to have a place for other kids to occupy their time at home and learn something rather than just sitting there playing video games or wasting time on the internet. And I started. There was a lot of things that were going on at home. Honestly, I was in a relationship with someone who was Christian. I was not Christian, but I wasn't necessarily an atheist. I was somewhere in the middle. I believed in God, but I didn't know, how to address him. I was just a Ronin, if you will.
Yeah, like a lot of the world right now. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend was listening. She would always have Christian music playing in the background, and I tried my best to tune it out. But every once in a while, being the musician that I was, I'd catch like a drum beat, and I'm like, "Oh, that was pretty cool." Or I'd catch a catchy little melody, and I'm like, "Oh, I like that melody." And one day, I was on my way back home from having a date with her, and she lived about an hour away, so I had an hour drive. And I said, "Hey, earlier there was a song in the radio, and it had a beautiful little melody. It was like da 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 da. She was like, "Oh, that's Oceans." And I'm like, "Okay." So I'm sitting in the car and I'm looking for it, and I couldn't find. I heard the little intro of Oceans, and I'm like, "That's not it." And I went forward, like I was expecting it to have the same structure that secular music had, chorus, and I was expecting that to be the chorus, never knowing that it was the ending, towards the end. Anyway, to make a long story longer, I ended up not listening to it. So I'm home. I get home. I was following this popular photographer on Instagram that was taking photos of these really good musicians, like popular musicians, like from YouTube U2, Bono, and all these musicians, Paul McCartney. And I thought one day I'd like to do that. I'd like to take pictures of artists. And I would always message his comment on his pictures. He'd never respond. And one day he posted a comment and says, "Hey, I'm starting a new project. I'm putting out an album because I'm a musician as well. Is there anyone out there who would be interested in listening to the album and just giving me some feedback?" And I'm like, "Me." So that's the first time he acknowledged me. And then I'm sitting there, listening to his music, and it was on SoundCloud. And on SoundCloud, you can add little notes. So I added little notes to it. And I'm like, "Hey, I like the bridge. I like the guitar. I like the way the drum is. I feel like this needs more volume." And he was just surprised with my notes. And he goes, "Dude, have you ever considered being like a music critic?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "You should really consider it." So I just let that in the back burner. So fast forward, that was I went back a little bit, but so fast forward, I'm listening I'm trying to find Oceans, couldn't find it. Get home, I put on my headphones and I'm listening to music, and I'm just, I just listen to it and let it just wash me, bathe me. I like to like dunk into music and just let it be a part of me. And then out of nowhere, I'm gonna go into it a little bit weird. Well, it's weird because I don't really like to say it out loud, but that entire week, there was nothing but 333 everywhere, just 333, 333. And to me, that's God calling me and saying, "Hey, pay attention. I've got something for you." And I was sitting there listening to some music, and then out of nowhere, I had to stop it because I get this warm feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I turn off the music and I said, "Okay, what is it?" And at the time, there was a situation that was happening here with at home because I live with my mom. I was helping her out with rent because they couldn't do it on their own, and my stepdad was he had tormented her for 30 years, and at the time I was praying to God that something would just come and help our household. I'm like, I'm not looking to get rich. I'm not looking to live a luxurious lifestyle. I just want to be able to supplement my stepfather's income and have him leave, because enough is enough. And when I was listening to the music, he said, I paused and I had that conversation with him, and he said, "What do you want? What is it that you want?" And I'm like, I'd like to try out something with music. And he goes, "Be specific." I'm like, I'd like to critique music. I'd like to listen to music and have that be a thing, And he said, "Okay, well, make a reaction channel." And I'm like, reaction channel? I've never reacted to music ever before in my life. And he's like, "Well, you're a video editor," because that's what I used to do before. "You're a video editor. You know how to make videos." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't have lighting." And to everything I had a "yeah, but," but I don't have lighting. And it says, "Well, you have that Walmart lamp." "Yeah, but I don't have good camera." "You have your cell phone. Start out with your cell phone." And so finally I said, "Well, yeah, but where do I start?" And that melody played in my head, Oceans, that little,
Oh wow.
that little, And I'm like, "But this is Christian music, and I'm not a Christian, and I don't know anything about Christian music." And he said, "Exactly. Just do that. Just listen to the music, and I'll do the rest." And I pressed record. I just pressed record on that first Oceans video. It was the most awkward video I think that I have, and it just went from there.
That's crazy. Your story kind of reminds me of a good friend of mine here in Houston. His name is Trey Nunn, and he does Christian hip hop. And the way he got saved was he rented audio equipment, and this church was broken into, and so they rented some audio equipment with it. And so he came and he was running sound for him every week. And he was like, 4 or 5 weeks went on, and he's sitting in church for those 4 or 5 weeks running sound. And he said the next thing he knew, like after the fourth or fifth week, the minister just said, "Hey, there's somebody here that's been here for a while, and you've been hearing the word." And he said, the next thing I know, that I'm leaving the sound booth and walking down to the to the front of the church, and it was just like that, a situation that had nothing to do with anything, but. You listening to that song or him being there because of him doing something else, just God snatched his heart, So that's awesome. Hey, so I see all the music. So how long you been doing music?
Since I was 14.
14.
Yeah, and I'm about to be 40 soon. So
for a while.
I'm terrible at math, so
a long time,
yeah.
Yeah. So is that one behind you? Is that the cigar banjo or?
Yeah, it's a ukulele.
Ukulele.
On mine did, yeah.
Yeah. So I've seen it on one of your. I've seen it on one of your videos. So James here, he's one of our hosts on the Refuge Project. He's a awesome musician and plays in a band and everything. And so when I seen that, I was just like, that would be something that you would like really dig,
That's something that I would learn how to play like 3 chords on,
yeah.
Just so I could play one song, and then, and then
well,
yeah.
If you know 3 chords, you could play dozens of songs.
That was
right?
You can play all Christian music.
Pretty much. You just move that capo around. Yeah, you just move that capo and you get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
Yeah, well, if I ever make it to Texas, I can have my friend make one, and I'll take it for you.
Yeah, that would be
Um,
amazing.
he makes bases out of these giant tequila boxes,
Oh,
these
really?
wooden boxes.
oh wow.
People send him all kinds of stuff. They asked him if he can make I think it was a 4-string guitar from an ammo box, like one of those
Oh
old
yeah, yeah, yeah.
metal
Yeah.
ones, and he makes them electric, and he adds all the stuff. He's really
Yeah, because
talented.
people do that out of like anything you can think of. But is it
Yeah,
basically just they stick a pickup in there and like
yeah.
what are you? That's pretty much it. Yeah.
This one's acoustic. I've asked him if he could put a sound hole on it so you can get a nice cleaner sound. He
Yeah.
said at the time he was like, no, he wasn't comfortable doing it. But I've seen that he's done a lot of stuff. I'll send you the link of
That's
some
pretty
of the
sweet.
work that he's
Yeah.
done. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he'll add just a basic pickup on there too.
So you mostly play guitar, I'm guessing.
Mostly guitar, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what my grandfather taught me. So I was
Awesome.
sitting there wanting him to teach me. So I was bugging him with playing Nirvana's "It Smells Like Teen Spirit" over
Yeah,
and over
yeah.
and over again until he finally got fed up and he's like, "Come here, I'll show you how to play." I was like,
Started
"Yeah,
teaching
cool."
you Spanish love songs instead.
Yeah, naturally, right? You switch, that's a natural
Went from
switch.
grunge.
Come here, mijo. I'm gonna turn you into Romeo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, thankfully to that, I've made a decent living. You know, it's gotten me out of a lot of tight spots.
That's
You know,
awesome.
being able to just pick up the guitar, go to a restaurant, and play for tips, or to get hired for gigs, things like that. It's been fun.
That's
Music's
awesome.
awesome.
I think one of the things that I like about your videos the most is that you're so honest, and vulnerable in your videos, and letting the people, your watchers, be able to really lean into what you're doing. I know there's been a couple times where you would begin to cry or you would begin to show emotion, and I was so like captivated by the way you were watching it. Like I was sharing your emotion just because that you were so honest in the video. Is that something that's the way you live your life, or you're just so ingrained in music that when music's played that you just kind of just fall into place?
It's a little bit of everything. When I was a kid, you know, I grew up like with my stepfather always being this aggressive. When he was drunk, he was just a completely different person. I remember just watching, and I'd be sort of sensitive to facial expressions. I kind of already knew when something was going to happen, so I became a little bit more sensitive to that, just to be able to tell when someone's moving in a different direction, to be able to tell like these little micro expressions when someone's sad, when someone's happy, when someone, you know. And for a really long time, music was my escape. I would whenever everybody has that song. If you're sad, you know exactly which song to turn on that's going and put on that's going to hit you, you know, and make you cry and just wash out, you know, all that emotional garbage, everything that you've been holding on to. It's my therapy. Like before COVID, I'd go to karaoke nights and just sing my heart out. So it's something that I feel on a deeper level than just I don't know, just mentally. I had an uncle when I first started singing, because I used to go to the serenades with my uncles and my grandfather when I first started learning to play. I have an uncle who just sings so beautifully, and I would always tell him, I'd go, Theo, like, how do you do it? How is it that you sing and I could feel everything that you're singing? And he goes, well, there's a difference between singing a song and interpreting it and being able to just, you know, the lyrics, you know, the chords, and you're singing it. And there's a technical part of it where you can fake it and try to invoke an emotion. He goes, but what I do is I pretend that I wrote that song, that's my story, that pain that singer felt is my pain. So I put on the story and then I sing it. And when I tried that, it just takes music to an entirely different level. It puts you in the headspace of the composer. It makes you feel their pain, you know, on a deeper level. But with Christian music, you can't really do that. You know, you have to. It's something else. So you have to. If I put myself in the position of these songwriters, I'd have to be in love with Christ. And how do you do that as a non-Christian? You know,
Yeah.
how do you do that? So the closest thing, like the first video that I ever cried to was "As You Find Me," and so I had to really listen to the lyrics, the way that it was sung, and I remember. Actually, no, it was on So Will I. I was sobbing so much, I cut out a lot of it.
Yeah, so the emotions, man, is just one of the things that just really that captivated me. I think that it's men showing that those type of emotions is something that culture right now is not really into. That man has to be strong and don't. When you're a kid, you're told, hey, get up. It don't hurt. Don't cry. As little boys. And as that grows, that I think that when we get as men, we're missing something there because we're taught not to show the emotion, and I think that we should be able to do that a little bit more than what we do. So I think that's something.
Which is a weird idea for me because either way, we do end up showing that emotion. It comes out as anger, and that's an emotion too.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it's healthy. It really is healthy. But when I was sitting there crying with "So Will I," and I cut out all those pieces, I was just about to hit the stop button, like stop recording. But then I thought, wait a minute, then it's not going to be a reaction. It's just the second time around, it's going to be fake.
Yeah.
And something was just like, leave it, just leave it. And even though I did cut some of it out, it's just me just sitting there, like literally just. I'm like, I don't want to just have, 5 minutes of me just with my head down and just sobbing. And I let it. I let it roll. And then another one, "Reckless Love" hit me. And
so that's where things. That's when things kind of changed on your YouTube channel, right? When you reacted to "Reckless Love."
Yeah.
So I know you was about to get in. So get into that a little bit. Tell us a little bit about how God was moving through your life while you was watching that, and then the emotions. Because I know at first you was just. And I love the way when you said a while ago, you translated the song. And I love the way you translate that song in particular, how you tell the story through melodically.
That'll work, yeah, that's a word.
Through the word, through the song, and really let people understand how the bass drum when the baby was in the womb, and how you tell that story through music. And almost didn't even need lyrics, the way you told the story, So tell us a little bit, the reaction and then how your YouTube channel really changed it, and maybe your life at that point it changed.
Sure. Well, it all kind of circles right back to my stepfather. That was right before my stepfather left. But the tension in my house had built up so much that I always realized, like, my mother has been incredibly kind to this man. Everything that he has is because my mother has always pushed to get. We lived in Compton. I was raised in Compton, and we lived in the back house for a while. We lived in a little small trailer for a good while, and with him being drunk and breaking things every time he would be upset, and seeing my mother's patience and seeing how kind she was to him, listening to that song. It was just a reminder that no matter where we are, God is always reaching out to you. He's always going to the place where he meets you where you are, right? And even though that song has a lot of controversy, some people don't like the word reckless. Again, it goes back to putting yourself in the position of the songwriter. And I imagine Corey putting himself in a reckless situation, just being in a place where maybe he thought God wasn't going to reach him, like where I grew up, Santa Claus didn't come there. There was no Superman doesn't show up there. Like, no one comes to help you. There's violence everywhere. There's drugs everywhere at every corner. You can't even play in the street without hearing gunshots in the next block over, things like that. So people put themselves in a situation where they feel, or they've gone so far away from God where they feel that God can't reach me. I'm in a reckless situation here. In order for God to reach me, he has to be reckless, because he has to go through all kinds of stuff just to be able to get to where I am. And hearing that and seeing my mother's patience and seeing how the violence in my house was growing, I had that question at the end where it was just like, why can't we love this way? God loves us in such a way that he would do anything for you, like anything. He would sacrifice and put himself last just so that someone else can have comfort. I see my mom doing that for me. I saw my grandparents do that for me. I know that it's possible. I know that it's doable for another human being to sacrifice their comfort for the comfort of others. I've done it myself, so I know this is possible. So this is sort of like this question that it was meant for people to take a moment to reflect, for introspection, and for them to ask myself, like, why? If God loves me in this way and He pours His love freely, why won't I? I worded it incorrectly. I should have said, why won't we love in this way? But people were like, well, we can't because we live in a sinful world. And I get that. And that answer is valid. And I'm not trying to reject that answer. But my real question was, why won't we? So I'm sitting there listening to the song. I'm emotional because it's such a beautiful, the lyrics, just that one phrase that says, when I was your foe, your love still fought for me. And that was my story. I grew up Catholic. I was threatened to be kicked out of the church. And after that poor representation of God, I thought there can't be a God there. So I walked the world as an atheist. I was angry. I was resentful. I struck up conversations with street preachers, and I gave them a piece of my mind to the point where I know I upset them, and I got pleasure out of that. And I don't like who I was at the time, but something shifted at one point, and that lyric was just spoke to me because I was his foe. I was against him, and even then he still protected me. He still guided me. He still, I wasn't even a good atheist, to be honest. I was the worst atheist ever because I would still talk to him, and he would still guide me. And
they'd have kicked you out too.
Yeah.
and praying.
And when I had that, yeah, I would have to turn in my atheist card because, like, what are you doing, bro? You're praying to God.
Can you tell us about your kind of just your background growing up? Because I know you said you were raised Catholic, but you got kicked out of the church for having questions. Like, how old were you? Like, how did all that go down?
I was 18. So my grandfather. So the summer that my grandfather passed away was a really emotional summer for me because I was 16. My mother left Mexico to flee my father because he was a drunk and he was abusive, and he threatened to take me. So my mom said, my grandfather, who was my father figure, my only father figure, he gave my mom all the money that he had and said, you're gonna have to leave because this man's gonna take your child and you're never gonna see him again. So my mom came to the U.S. and brought me when I was 2. And took me to the beautiful city of Compton. Yeah. And she did a fantastic job raising me, I think, because I stayed away from drugs and I stayed away from the gangs and all that. It was easy. It was in every corner. Some of my friends ended up either in drugs or in jail, or like a teacher used to say, you're going to end up in jail or in hell, one of the two. And so we left that. So when I was 16, I became a legal resident at age 12. And then at age 14, 15, and 16, I would go to Mexico. So I learned how to play guitar over the summer. I'd come back. I practiced my chords. I went back when I was 15. My grandfather said, you still remember all your chords? Yes. Well, you're coming with us. And that was my first experience performing at a house and getting paid, so, we ate some really good tacos that night. Yeah. and we got paid, right? So, when I was 16 and I returned, he was already too old. He could hardly hold a note. His guitar you could hardly hear his guitar anymore. And his health declined drastically. And I would go out with my uncles, but he got really sad because he couldn't do what he did his entire life. He couldn't play anymore. But that same summer, my dad, my real father, found out that I was in Mexico. So he called and he came to visit. And we had our thing. We had an encounter. We caught up on some things. And then watching my grandfather, his health decline, and he passed in August of 99. It was really emotional because I met my real father for the first time, and I lost who I consider to be my grandfather, he's my real father. And when I was 15, 16, I played guitar at the Catholic Church here in Compton. I was involved in the Catholic Church, and I had questions because the night, I don't know how weird you want to get, but the night that my grandfather passed away, in Mexico, you have the bakers, they bake all night. and to make a little extra money, instead of having a little bread that's about the size of I don't know, like a small bowl, they make them gigantic, right, to sell them for a little extra cash, right, at night. My grandmother said, I need you to go get some more bread for the people who were there praying the rosary. And I said, okay. So, and I walk, and all of a sudden the lights in the entire block went out, and I'm grabbing onto this post, scared. Actually, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, because on my way there, I was having a conversation with God, and I said, God, you gave me a father, and I'm grateful for the father that you gave me. He took good care of me. He always made sure that I was safe. Can you please just do me a favor? I asked the first sign. I said, give me a sign that he will continue, that you will continue to guide me and protect me, now that he's not here. And as soon as I said that, the lights went out in the entire block, and I grabbed onto this post, and I looked behind me, and the block behind me, all their lights were on, and the block ahead of me, all of their lights were on.
Wow.
And then suddenly I felt this warm sensation in the pit of my stomach, and I felt like this warm, hug. And I said, "Is that it? Is that your sign?" And then the lights came on.
Wow.
Right? So that stayed with me. Every single time that I need help with something, a light will flicker, and that's my call to be still and to just receive the guidance, And I explained this to an uncle of mine, my son of my grandfather, who at the time was Catholic but was married to a Jehovah's Witness. And he had his questions, so obviously she answered them for him, and he converted, so he became a Jehovah's Witness. So one day I'm sitting there and I'm explaining to him. Oh. Go ahead. Okay. So I'm sitting there and I'm explaining to him, the lights and all my experiences, and he said, "I'm sorry, mijo, but that doesn't happen. That's not true. That's the devil. He's messing with you, and he's making you believe that God is guiding you, but you need to be careful with that, because he could be guiding you towards damnation." And that started to stir things up inside of me, because I really felt really well connected to God, and I felt like God was really with me. And now, for the first time, I wasn't so sure. So I asked the priest at my church. I said, "Is this true? Is it true that that God doesn't help us anymore? That He's not with us?" And he sort of gave me the runaround, and he told me to read this other book that he had. And I said, "Could you please just?" I just wanted an answer. So could you please just answer my question? And he didn't really give me a direct answer. So I said, "Okay," I left it alone. Then one day I'm playing guitar in mass, and I don't know if you're familiar with Catholic masses, but sometimes the procession to come into the church for the priest, and they bring the Bible and they bring all the sacred things. Sometimes it's really long. So the leader of the choir said, "Leo, we need you to do a little guitar solo to sort of make the song a little longer." So I did. I did a nice little simple scale. Nothing crazy. It's not like I turned on the distortion and went Carlos Santana on it. It's just nice and simple. Well, the priest, I guess he mistook my questions for me doubting the faith.
Yeah, disobedient.
And after the mass is over, he comes up to me and he says, "Hey, listen," he goes, "when people come to this church, they come to praise God. They don't come to praise you. If you ever play the way that you played again, I'm going to kick you out of this church. You're not going to be welcome in this church anymore."
Wow. So
that to me was the final, blow to the gut. And I said, "Who is this man who's supposed to lead me to God? He's supposed to be the representative of God. He's supposed to represent the love and kindness of God. And here he is trying to kick me out for something that I didn't do. I was just asking a simple question." So after that, I said, "There is no God. This can't be real. This can't be a thing," because, I didn't know which way was up anymore. My uncles planted that seed of doubt. The priest didn't know how to answer that. So I was like, wait a minute, is there something that have I been lying to myself this entire time? Have I been lied to this entire time? And, it's one thing to be an atheist and to grow up not believing in God, because you might have a discussion with someone, you might have doubt, and you might be skeptical, and you might even be cynical. But when the church hurts you, and you become an atheist, that's a whole different monster, because now you're resentful, you're angry, you're sarcastic, you're cynical. You want to hit, you want to strike. And that was me for about 10 years.
Yeah. I had kind of the same experience. We just celebrated 100 years here in our church last month. And, both of our families, James and I, both of our families are from the original church. But I was the same thing, you get that church hurt. And for 10 years, man, I was out there, living on the streets and gang banging and drugs and alcohol, the whole 9 yards. Because, it's one of those things like as young people, you're curious, there's a lot that this world has to offer, and we just need people to be honest with us, Yeah. And I think a lot of times the elders in the church, they don't remember what it is to be young and curious,
Yeah.
And as especially as young men, we have this drive inside of us, and we are curious, and we do have questions that need to be answered, and it's important that we have people in our lives that speak truth to us, and that take time with us, and the problem is, up until I think there's kind of a shift right now, but there's been a lack of men in the faith for a long time. The women in the church have really ran the church, and they've been the ones that have been in the prayer meetings and really just behind the scenes making things move. And there's been a lack of men leadership in the household. There's been a lack of leadership in the church to really show us what it looks like. And every step of life, we need a man for men to show us what the next step look like, And sometimes, I think that in the faith that we have, there's a lack of that sometimes.
Yeah. And so what do you do in situations like that? It's challenging, and I can only imagine how more difficult it must be when you're dealing with things like addiction. And thankfully,
sure.
I've never dealt with that, but I do have a sensitivity for people who do that because of my stepfather. It's not someone that I resent, or I don't hate him, but I understand him because he lived a hard life. His father was really hard on him, so he doesn't know how to be.
Right.
To him, being a man is being puffing his chest up and just being the loudest person in the room. Mm-hmm. That's what we think is leadership, forcing people. And from what I've seen in the church, from just an outside perspective, there's a lot of conversion, but there's no transformation.
Wow.
And I think
Come on.
There should be some form of inner transformation and emotional intelligence and a full understanding of why it is that we feel angry about the things that we feel angry about. Why does it hurt me when someone says, some ABC to me?
Yeah.
And really understanding yourself and diving deep into yourself.
So how, as a man, how do you handle that? Because you've been failed by a lot of men in your life, from the priest to a father to a stepfather. How do you deal with that to try to make yourself better? Because a lot of people can, they can either turn out like the people that have done bad to them, or they can, turn all the way around from that and say, I'll never be that way. How did you kind of, as a young boy, 14, 15 years old, 16 years old, when your grandfather had passed, so now that one person that you could trust and lean on is now gone. How did that kind of like set you off until now here you are 40?
Mm-hmm. I struggled with that for a good while, and especially when I was an atheist. I think the thing that helped me the most were the little phrases that my grandfather used to say that stayed with me. And one of those were that you learn from experience. He would tell me, you learn from experience, and you learn from your own experience, or you can learn from the experience of others. And making note of not having a father and seeing what my stepdad was, knowing that I wanted to be nothing like them, promising myself that I would never drink, promising myself that I would never harm a woman, promising that I would never, keeping these tiny little promises to myself that I didn't want to be what I had. I wanted to be something else. And remembering that my grandfather would say, well, Dad, like you can learn from there was a lot to learn from my stepfather's anger. There was a lot to learn from the priest, sort of backtracking and not knowing how to handle questions. There's a lot to learn from my father, who it's interesting because it all circles back. I talked to my father for the first time yesterday. I haven't spoken to him I think in 10 years, and he got a hold of my mom and they've been talking and sort of just mending their relationship. And he keeps asking about me, like, why is Leonardo so upset with me? Why doesn't he want to talk to me? And I have my reasons. He was a little cruel, even through the phone. But I decided, okay, I'm not angry at him. I'm not hurt at what he did or what he didn't do or what he failed to do. He has his reasons. Understanding, trying to step into his headspace. That's big for me. Trying to step into his headspace and wonder why did he become the way that he did. And he sort of went into it a little bit yesterday. His mom died when he was young, and he was bullied. So in order for him to not be bullied, he had to be the toughest kid in the block. And so yeah, that meant fighting. That meant being the manliest, drinking the most, all that. So I had a conversation with him yesterday, and we mended things. I told my mom that I let him off the hook. I didn't tell him everything that I felt. I didn't tell him that he should have been there. I just let it go because I let it go because it's healthier for me.
That's exactly right.
And I know who I want to be, and I know that I don't want to be resentful. I don't want to be angry. I know, because I know the nature of that. I know the nature of what happens when you're angry, because I saw it at my stepdad. I know the nature of my emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like your grandfather gave you a very mature perspective of the different situations that were going on in your life, and it seems that that's carried you out through your early 20s and 30s, and here you are almost 40 years old, and to hear you speak to a very mature way to look at things, that it takes a lot of people, a lot of bad decisions to get mature perspective. And that's one of the things I appreciate about James here, is that he has some of those same mature perspectives in life, and he didn't have to find those through mistakes like I did, it's really refreshing to hear young men to have that mature perspective. So all of that happened in your life, and then you find yourself sitting in front of Reckless Love, Corey's singing this song, and just kind of run us through that process and those feelings and all those things that were happening there. And then, when all that was over, you had that YouTube strike. Kind of run us through that.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have said this a few, 2 years ago, but really the credit does go to God, because He knew what I needed. I didn't have to ask and demand that, my stepdad leave and all that, but He knew exactly what I needed. And when Reckless Love came out, I saw the views rising. My comments started to increase, and I remember calling my girlfriend and going, like, I don't know if I can handle all these comments. Like, there's a lot of people, like, and I was like 3,000 subscribers or something like that, and I'm like, I can't, like, I don't know what to do. She's like, look, if you want to quit, but if you want to keep going, keep going. Like, don't worry about the numbers, don't worry about the people, just do as much as you can. So I said, okay, fine. Like, I went with it. But with Reckless Love, I got really emotional. I saw that because of all the cold things that happened in my life, all the bad things that happened in my life, and how I changed my perspective, and also all the good things that God pointed out in life. I'd like to say that I play hide and seek with God, and I like to find Him in people and in places, and even in bad situations. I said, I see you. I see where you are. Like, I see you right there. You're right there. And with Reckless Love, it started to get a lot of attention. And when you're doing videos on YouTube, specifically with music, you're going to run into copyright claims, right? Yeah. So I had a copyright claim on that song. I disputed it. And in most cases, when you dispute something like that, like, hey, I'm just reacting to it, I'm not making money, I'm not selling a product, I'm not doing anything like that, they will usually just release the claim and let you use the song. But with Reckless Love, they denied it again and they blocked it. Bethel was like, "We're not having it. You can't play our music on your channel." So rather than getting upset, I accepted it. I said, "Okay, that's fine." And so what I did was I went on Instagram and I posted to people and I said, "Hey, Reckless Love is going to get deleted. If you want to watch it, you have 5 days to watch it before it gets deleted because it's getting blocked by Bethel." No, I said it's getting blocked. Well, people started commenting and messaging Corey, and they were like, "Dude, how can you do this to him? Obviously, he was touched by your song, and I can't believe that you're blocking his music, and why are you doing this?" And he responded to most of the comments. I got tons of screenshots of him responding to them and saying like, it's not me. Then finally he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I want you to know that I saw your video. I was really moved by your video. I'm going to do whatever I can to fight for this. And I'm going to contact Bethel. Like, just hang on." So then the next day he sent me a message and he said, "Hey, I talked to Bethel. They're going to release the claim and they're going to allow you to have the song." So he saved it. And then suddenly that song just picked up and a lot of people started watching it. And that was the turning point. Corey coming in, doing what he does, loving on people. I'm just a stranger, a non-Christian, and he showed that love. And that's sort of the tiny little seeds that were beginning to be planted in me of me seeing Christians differently.
Yeah, that's a faith builder for sure, right? A block on top of a block builds our faith. What's the video at as far as views now?
That was the first video to hit 1 million views. It's I think at 2.2 million views now.
Wow. That's
Do you think
crazy.
they probably blocked or were initially blocking that because I feel like there was a bunch of controversy around that song when it came out, at least a lot more than like most of their other songs. Do you think they were just kind of like, hey, let's kind of get rid of as much of this stuff as possible?
Possibly. I've run into a lot of musicians that get blocked. Elevation Worship is the one that I just can't do anymore on the channel because
they block everything.
I contacted. Pardon?
They block everything.
They block everything. Yeah. And it's interesting because I've noticed that other channels don't get blocked. So I don't know what it is about my channel. I don't think it's just blocked. Mm-hmm. I reached out to them to their team. And they said, "Yeah, you can use our songs." And I'm like, "I'm trying to explain to you that every time I post something, it gets blocked." It goes, "No, it will get blocked if you're trying to make money off of it." And I'm like, "But I'm not. Like, it's not like I even have the choice to just leave it with a copyright claim. It just gets blocked entirely." She goes, the person that I was talking to, they were like, "Okay, well, we'll let you use it, but we'll monetize the video, meaning that if it generates views, they're going to be making money off of it." I said, I'm like, "Look, people are wanting me to listen to your music. So whatever you want to do, go for it. Like, just do it." But right. they just, it still gets blocked.
That's crazy.
So
that's crazy. So how did your YouTube channel like change after that? So if you have that many views, so you got 1 million views, like, so I'm sure the subscriber level just went crazy, right? So
it took off right.
How'd that change for you?
Okay, so a few things. So that was the end of June that video started to take off.
What year that, like, what, 2020?
No.
2020.
2020?
I started the channel in April, right? I started the channel in April. The first video that I posted was Oceans, April 24th, I believe it was. And by the 27th of June, the channel had already enough subscribers so that I can monetize it, right? And just on ads alone, that first month of July, that first week of July, it closed off enough for me to be able to tell my stepdad, "Hey, you can go now."
Wow.
At least that's how I wanted to plan it. I had originally planned that once the channel got to a certain level where I could pay my rent and his portion of the rent, that's literally all I wanted to do. And that's still the goal because my brother left now too, so now more responsibility. But anyway, that's a whole different story. In that July, on the 4th of July, on the 3rd of July, actually, my stepdad just completely lost it. he lost it. And I originally wanted to say, hey, I know you're not happy here. I know you're cheating on my mom, and I know you want to move on. You're free to go now. I got this, because I felt like he was just burdened with the household. So I wanted originally to ask him to leave that way. But on the 3rd of July, we actually had to call the police, and he said, I'm leaving. So he left, and I changed the locks immediately the next day because I didn't want him to regret that decision. And since 2020, we've lived in relatively peace, awesome. In peace.
How's your mom
since
doing?
Then. God's looking out.
Yeah,
she's doing well. She's doing well. She's doing. I mean, still struggle from time to time, because like anything, the channel goes up and down. But I'm grateful because even though I'm not living a luxurious lifestyle, I really am just paying the bills and barely making it, right? So we have our ups and downs. But I'm grateful for it because my mom's more at peace. I mean, she was so stressed out, she was losing her hair.
Wow.
And she's more at peace. She's still a Mexican mother, so obviously she's not going to be 100% at peace. But as far as having someone drunk and not knowing if they're going to be violent, she's at peace. She's good.
That's good. That's awesome. So, all right. So tell me about the air drums, man.
The air drums. I love drums. Yeah. I just love the drums. I just don't have the coordination for it. I'd like to be able to move all my limbs, differently, but I can't. So I air drum as much as I can, and it's the heartbeat of every song. So I love sitting there in the heartbeat and then watching and listening. Well, for me, it's spatial. So I'll sit there and the drums will be in the middle, unless the bass is like really stands out. So then I'll sit in the bass, but mostly I sit in the middle and it's drums. And then I'll hear the piano sort of moving around, or I'll hear the guitar on this side moving around, and it's all like a landscape for me. Mm-hmm. Of course, it would be landscape. I'm Mexican. Right? So it's a landscape, and I can hear the instruments moving around me. So I just love sitting there in the drums and feeling the drums. So Will I was just one of those songs that I love sitting in the middle and watching it circle around me, and the whale sound that I what I call the whale sound and all that. So air drumming. I'm a professional air drummer.
Well, you look great doing it, man. You look like you know what you're doing. That's James's that's his like natural.
That's the only thing I can do that I feel confident that I can do.
He says that, but he's all around great musician. I don't know, but
what else do you play?
Anything with buttons and knobs. I got into the weird world of electronics and synthesizers when I was in college, learning about audio engineering and stuff. I played drums since junior high, so that's and I'm 28, so I feel confident if somebody says, what do you play, and I say I play drums, I feel confident saying that. Pretty much anything else is like, I'll play synths and basic melodies on some synths or a bass line or something, and I got into the weird world of drum machines and all that kind of stuff. Which is it's a fun place to be, but it's a dark hole that just sucks you in and all that stuff. And
I know.
Yeah, but anything with strings, I never really took the time to get good at it. The coordination in the fingers is weird for me, but
maybe we could trade.
Yeah, if we could you give me like half of what you got, I'll give you half what I got. Would be all right.
Yeah, there you go. See, then I'll be a well-rounded musician. I'd be able to play any instrument on the band.
Yeah, for real. So what are you doing as far as music these days? Are you working on an album or anything like that, or playing in a band? Or
well, no, you said you're playing sorry, go ahead.
No, since COVID, I stopped playing at parties. Every once in a while, because I had a friend who played the accordion, and every once in a while we will play like a little gig here and there. I reacted to a band called Boiling Point on the channel, and the lead singer Eric Jokel and I became good friends. And I recorded the guitar part to one of his songs in his recent albums. But other than that, I'm not doing much. I'm hoping to get back into it and maybe play. But I really like sitting and listening to music. So for the future, and I guess in the future, I'd like to sort of maybe be a music consultant and really listen to a song before it gets put out.
Yeah.
To be able to say, okay, I like this, I don't like this. Maybe if you're going for this emotion, maybe add like, the heartbeat drum or little things like that. I'm big on sound design. Whenever I hear a song that I can hear that they put thought into sound design, where they say something about like flying in the sky, and I could hear a flute, and it passes by. I love that stuff. It's like because I'm a visual person. It's like making a movie in my head with nothing but audio.
Yeah.
And I love that, like all the attention to detail that goes into a song.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is the other stuff that I kind of learned how to do over the years, which isn't really an instrument, but it's definitely like a musical skill. It's just production stuff, and that's a tough thing to explain to people when they say, "What do you do?"
Foley.
Yeah, it's tough to explain production to non-music production people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've ever been to Universal Studios Hollywood.
Not in Hollywood. No, never made it.
No?
I've been to the Universal thing in Florida back in the day.
Have you, Pastor?
No, I haven't. We was going to go there one time, but we didn't make it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I remember when I was a kid, we had a field trip, and we went there, and they brought us into this sound studio, and they showed us how they make all the Foley, like so thunder, and like they had like this metal. Little metal disc or whatever, and they would make thunder, or they would record footsteps, because they couldn't get that when they were filming. So they added all those sounds at the end. And I always thought that, well, that's really cool. They're adding rain sounds and lightning and all that stuff. And they do the same in music sometimes. They add little things that just give the song depth. It's not just a sound all the way through from beginning to end.
One of my audio teachers back in college, he was one of the things he would always say, or I don't know why he kept saying this so often, but he would say, because the whole idea was whatever you're recording, whatever instrument or whatever the thing is, it needs to sound the best it can be, was like the point he was trying to get across. So he's like, so whether it's a bass, it needs to be the best sounding bass. If it's a drums, the best sounding drum. And then he would always go, I don't care if you're recording a whale fart. It needs to be the best sounding whale fart. That was just something he would always say. It would always work his way back in there as whale farts.
Yeah, because you don't want to just add a bunch of instruments, right? Like you take like a song like Imagine, it's just piano. Imagine if that song had drums and violins, and also, I mean, I'm pretty sure somebody's made it that way. But sometimes it doesn't have to have every instrument. Sometimes it could just be a guitar, plucking away. If it's in the recording, it has to have a purpose. Otherwise, what's the point if you're just doing single chords?
Besides your grandfather and the guitar, are you self-taught, or did you go to school for any of it?
No, self-taught.
Wow.
Well, once my grandfather taught me all the chords, because I had him a whole month that he was just teaching me a few chords a day, and then once I learned all the basic chords, it's only 21 chords. Once you learn all those basic chords, he showed me how they work with each other, and he taught me like the popular song, like a birthday song that you play in Spanish, Las Mañanitas, and he showed me how to play it in one key, and then he showed me how to play it in a different key, and so I learned how to do the 1-4-5, and from there I just started to train my ear a little bit and learning to play songs by ear. And then the internet. So, you can cheat and learn a lot of songs on the internet now.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but all of that, music, guitar, the ukulele, a little bit of drums, even like with video editing, I self-taught. I wasn't a very good student, if I can be honest. Once I had a guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, once I had the guitar in my hand, math, forget it.
Yeah.
English. I mean, I tell people I was bad at math, but I was gooder at English.
There you go. Nice.
That's good. So video editing, what are you doing with that? Are you like shooting videos or anything like that for people, or is that some way you like supplement income?
Yeah. So before the channel got started, I was working with a dentist who created an app. And he needed instructional videos. So what he would do is he would screen record how to order a dentist to your home or whatever. And he would do his voice. And then he would send me that file, and I would then chop chop it into pieces and make his 3-minute video into 1-minute video and then do a voiceover to it. Exactly. The person, his developer had a real thick Indian accent, so he didn't want his voice, so I would use my voice and I would make him his videos. And then I also worked at a restaurant, and I was doing all their social media stuff. And so video editing was what I was doing before. That's why when I was sitting there wanting to, when God was telling me to start the channel, I was like, but I don't know how to get started. He's like, you do video editing. You know video editing. You have your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Don't act like you don't know how to piece a video together.
Yeah, and these days with the phones, man, the camera quality. So there's so many projects where people are like, look, and I did it on my phone, and it looks great.
I've been doing some stuff lately on my phone. But every once in a while, I have like people that I worked with before. Like recently, I have a guy who owns a print shop in Downey. He's opening up another print shop, and he wants me to go and do some videos. So I'll do it from time to time. Yeah,
that's very cool. So what's the direction of the channel now? What do you see God doing in your channel? And I know you've done some, like you said, you've done some different Bible studies. And the lady on the channel that comes in and out at times, who is this?
Oh yeah, that's Erika. She's my girlfriend.
Oh, that's your girlfriend. Okay. Yes. Let me ask you about that. So what was the dynamic in y'all's relationship when you were atheist and she was Christian? Like, because as Christians we're taught don't be unevenly yoked, but I mean, in this situation, it worked out. You worked out for you, right? Because she was just planting those seeds, playing that music in the background. But what was the dynamic like with you guys when you wasn't serving God?
Our relationship has been it's big on freedom, about allowing the other person to just be who they are. And I would, even though Christian music wasn't my thing, I'd let her play. Why not? It made her happy. It put her at peace. It was. The energy in the room or in the car was peaceful, so why not, right? And then when I'm listening to my flamenco music and it's nothing but screaming, or when I'm listening to metal, because I like metal, when I'm listening to metal, she I don't say she tolerates it, but she gets into it now too, So it's about it was about like her being free to be whoever she was, and me not saying like, why do you listen to that, like Christ? At the time I wasn't an atheist, but I wasn't a Christian. At all either. I did have my reservations, but I just let her be who she was. And even though I was spiritual and I had my relationship with God, it wasn't so much with Christ, but it was with what I consider, now that I see how you all, now that I know Christianese, the Holy Spirit or the Father,
Mm-hmm.
That's been my relationship. I didn't know who Christ was. So with her listening to that, every once in a while she'd watch her church online and I'd just sit there and watch it with her. I think it's being open. It was for me at least, I don't know, I can't speak for her, but for me, it was about me being open to whatever it was that she was into, because I love her and I don't want to change her. I didn't want to get her to move away from God because I wasn't in love with God in the same way that she was. It was very much just allowing her to be herself.
Right. So in your bio, you say that you consider yourself a student of Christ. Whether that means you're a Christian or not yet is to be determined. Just share your heart on that a little bit.
Okay, my heart, not my mind. Hang on. let me shift here. Okay, so I love God. God has always been present with me since I was a kid. He taught me the biggest lesson that I've learned from God is to be still. And for me, the 333 has been a thing of just me being still. Every single time that either a light flickers or I see the 333, or it's just like it becomes obvious that it's everywhere, it's a call for me to be still. And in that stillness is where I receive guidance. It's where I receive comfort. It's where I receive peace that I'm looking for. It's there. It's here in that moment. When I received the call to check out Christian music, I feel it was more than just the music. Obviously, he's using the music as a hallway into a relationship with Christ. We talked about not having that father figure. We talked about, struggling with myself and understanding my emotions and wanting to, and not having that archetype, that goal, that image, that person to emulate. I feel like he led me to see what Christ was doing. And not so much what Christians are doing, because if I look at what Christians are doing, to me, I'm like, okay, well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to church. And then when I leave church, I'm going to be a completely different person.
Come on.
Because I'm going to be converted and not transformed.
Come on.
So, and I hope I'm not coming across as offensive, but that was just, honestly, I'm being honest. That was my view. But then I'm looking at shows like The Chosen, right? I'm an amateur, so I don't know if that's 100% an accurate representation of Christ, right? But I do like what I've seen. When I read things like the red letters, when I read things like his prayer to the Father and what he prayed for us, I have a deeper look into his heart. When I when I read like the Sermon on the Mount, you get a deeper look into his heart. And when I see things like him praying, when I read things about him saying the most important commandment, the one that really moved me was, if you love me, you will obey my command. Because those who don't love me will not obey my command. And that alone is super powerful. It's just, if you love me. So then it raises the question, do I love Christ? Do I know who he is? Because as far as I'm concerned, I always followed the Father. The Father led me. Do we have time to insert a little story there?
Yeah, we got as much time.
Much time as you want.
Okay. So after like about 10 years of my atheism, I was just fighting God. Someone told me like that I was too intense, and they're like, have you ever tried meditation? And I'm like, meditation, like what the Buddhists do, and like, yeah, well, yeah, kind of. And I'm like, that's nonsense too. It's God stuff, And they said, well, you should try it. So I was like, all right, I'll try it just to prove that it's stupid, that it's dumb. So I sit there and I'm like, nothing. I go, see, nothing. And they said, you know what? And they reminded me of something. They're like, you don't go into meditation, prayer. You don't go into meditation to try to receive something. You go into it to let go of something because it's obvious that you have something you want to let go. So I tried it again. Nothing. I'm like, this is dumb. So I went to shower. And I was under the water, and Pastor Chad, who I talked to before, he pointed out that was my baptism. He go, I was standing there in the shower, and finally I said, okay, God, I'm done. I know you're there. I know that you're there. Obviously, it's so obvious that you've been guiding me, that you've been, looking out for me, getting me out of bad situations. I know that you're there. I said, I'm tired of fighting you. I'm tired of fighting your people. I give up. I surrender. Like if you're there, and it wasn't a demanding thing. Like, if you're there, show yourself to me. It was like, if you're there, I'm here. I'm here. If you want to show me that you're there, I'm open. And then again, that warm feeling in the pit of my stomach. That's always how it starts. That warm feeling in the pit of my stomach, and then a complete embrace over me. And I guess the main topic here is the growing up without a father. I didn't know what it was like to be held by a father. My grandfather, yes, he hugged me, but it wasn't like a come here, like I love you, fatherly hug. So I had no idea what that felt like. I had no idea what it feels like for a father to hug me. And then I felt that warm embrace, and I was like okay, like now I know why they call him father. Like, it really is this comforting embrace, this real, like, it's going to be okay, this protective feeling, and I'm standing there in the shower sobbing like a baby, so much that like even the water feels foreign to me. Like, it was like I'd never felt water on my skin, before in my life. And I said, well, before that happened, I said, but please, whatever you do, don't send me to a church. Don't send me to a person. I want you, and I want you directly. Like, I just want you. And when I was feeling that embrace, it said, not in words, but in that feeling, it was, I guess I translated it in 2 words, but it was an embrace that said, you don't belong to a person. You don't belong to church. You don't even belong to this world. You belong to me. You belong to me. And if you really want a relationship with me, you answer the call. When I call you, you answer. And when I tell you to move, you move. And if I tell you to be still, you be still. Just obey. So when I'm listening, and now fast forward to now, when I'm reading that says, those who love me will obey me, it raises the question, do I love God?
Yeah.
And if I do, I will obey. Because it's clear that if I don't obey his command, then I don't love him. And the love that I have for him is bigger than anything in this world. So I will obey his command. And what is his command? His command is to love others as he's loved me. So I'm on the channel loving people. You know, I almost stopped recording when I was sobbing, and I'm glad that I didn't, because so many messages, just like I get negative messages, I get so many positive messages, dude. Like when I'm sitting here crying with you, and you just reminded me of God's love. You know, that those tears are reminding people that they're loved. Those tears are reminding people that God is there. Those tears are reminding people that the beauty of the music that they listen to passively in church, that they stand up and maybe sing along to, that they're hearing it in a new way. And you know, this one person, Jackie, I love Jackie. She's from the UK. She was struggling. She's 70 years old. She lived alone during the pandemic, and she found a family in the channel. Wow. And she was an atheist. And now she's like active in her church. She's going to Bible studies, and you know, so like I'm happy for her. Yeah. So when I'm asked, I'm sorry, I went the long way, I you know, with your question, but when I'm asked, am I Christian, I don't know how to answer that. Like, you tell me, because I don't want to say yes with my words if my actions aren't in alignment. Wow. So you tell me, am I Christian? Yeah. Some people say yes, and I've got people telling me that I'm not, because I haven't said this, or I don't mention Christ enough, or I'm not witnessing, or I'm not doing that. And if all that means, that's what it means to be Christian, then I'm not a Christian in so many ways. But if I'm a Christian in terms of loving others and being obedient, then yes, I'm a Christian.
Can you, I know you've mentioned a couple times about, like people having a conversion and not a transformation. So could you tell me kind of what that's looked like in your life once you, after all the reckless love stuff, and after you don't identify as an atheist anymore? What did the transformation in your life look like?
It looks like surrender, complete surrender. Because if someone is dealing, and when I say addiction, when I mention the word addiction, I don't just mean like drugs and alcohol, because anything could become an addiction. Even like, narcissism, sarcasm can even be an addiction. But any addiction of any form, anything that you want to move away from, that leads you to the church or leads you to God, anything you want to move away from, if you are using God to replace that addiction, and now all of a sudden it becomes an image, it becomes an idea, it becomes, you're talking about God, but it's only an idea. You're going to church, but you're still swearing, you're still lying, you're still cheating, you're still doing all these other stuff. That's just conversion to me. That transformation says, I give all that up. I'm dead to who I was, and I'm a new person. I'm a new person now. And even though some of that residue is still with me, and I'm tempted to lie about something, correcting that course or acknowledging or witness, not acknowledging to another person, but openly saying, God, I did, didn't I? Like I slipped up there and I lied. Like remove that from my life. Not just beat myself up because I'm a sinner, and do nothing about it, but really, really sit there and be transformed and to be moved, that your heart is made new, and that your life is, for me, well, I'm going to speak for myself. I don't want to say you, because I don't want to install this into people, but for me, it's been about removing who I am and saying, it's not my life. You gave me this. I didn't create this life. I'm not sustaining myself. I don't, yes, I feed myself, but I don't make the plants grow. I don't make the rain fall. I don't make my environment provide for me. That's provided for me because of you. So it's not my life; it's yours. And I can either live it the way that I want to, and I could start a band right now. I could start a band right now, and with the following that I have, I'm pretty sure that I could write a song, and I'll have people supporting that, and move to bigger things, to other things. But that would be what I want. Mm-hmm. And right now, my mode is, what do you want? Because there have been times where I wanted to quit, man, because there's people who are just so negative, so like, they're like, oh, this guy's fake, he's crying for the views. And I'm like, you have no idea what it took for me to not post that. You have no idea what it took for me to not post that, to be vulnerable and open. And here you are I'm leaving an open, my chest is wide open, and you're just trying to jab at it, you know? It's difficult. So anyway, I'm zigzagging here, but that transformation is the complete death of who I was, and truly being reborn into something new, and letting and chipping away at the parts that still want to cling to me from my past.
Well, it's good. So I seen I think it was a live video with you and a pastor that reached out shortly after some of these videos went viral, right? How important was that guy reaching out to you at that time? Or I think he was a pastor. What was his name, pastor?
Pastor Chad?
Was that Pastor Chad? I think it was. How vital was that for you to really understand, like, the purpose that God had for you, and for him to speak into your life a little bit? And then where is he in your life now?
Well, we've become good friends. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but he's busy because he's building another church, or he's renovating his church. But how important was it? It was scary for me, to be honest, because I was opening the door that I had shut a long time ago, and I was putting myself in a position of possibly being hurt again. And so that was scary for me. And even as an atheist, I never ran into a loving Christian, you know. And maybe that was my fault. I'll take responsibility for that, because I did come across harshly. But never in my life have I ever come across someone that was genuinely wanting to get to know me without judgment, without trying to look at me as a project, that this is the guy that I need to convert, and this is the guy that needs to know God. He was, Pastor Chad always came open, and he met me where I was, and it was never pushy, like, dude, like, you know, I'd like to invite you to my church. He did say, I want to invite you to Texas and come, and I want to meet you, and I want to hang out with you. And he wanted to get to know me on a personal level, and I think that really made it comfortable for me to be open to more conversations with Christians, and more and being open to just hearing more of the stories and all that. So
I do remember him saying something. I don't know if it was that video or maybe even a follow-up video of him saying, like, everybody wanted more of you at that point. They wanted for you to, you know, claim all these different things that, you know, us long-term Christians or whatever was claiming. And he was just like, hey man, let this brother grow. You know, he is where he is. And I appreciated that so much, because I haven't always been a pastor, you know, and I really tried to make myself see, like, he's where I was at one time. That doesn't mean that he has to be where I am right now. Yeah. And we put so much pressure on young Christians and young people and expectations on their life when they're not ready to step into those expectations.
Right. And backing up into the conversion versus transformation, that's part of it too. When you're talking to someone about Christ, and you're just inviting them to church, and you want them to be a Christian, you could convert them right away, and they'll be out there talking to other people about Christ. The problem is that if they're not fully in, they're going to say the wrong thing,
or they're going to be pushed. Right.
They're going to be pushed to anger quickly. You know, they're not going to know how to answer a question, and then all of a sudden, it's just going to make all Christians seem like they don't know what they're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas transformation, for me, it's more valuable for me to be able to love someone and to be happy and to be in positive. I'm not trying to be woo woo and be all like, oh, positivity and love. And no, I'm trying to live it so that when someone says, dude, like, what is it about you that makes you so forgiving when people have hurt you so much and you're so forgiving? Then I could tell them it's because the God that I have is forgiving, and He's forgiven me for all the stuff that I've been through. And that sparks that curiosity and said, what do you mean? And now there's a transformation there. The opportunity for transformation happens there because it's like, I want to be like that. I want to have that peace. I want to have that love. I want to be forgiving. I don't want things to bother me as much as they bother me today. And if the secret is to have a relationship with God, then that's what I want. Versus forcing someone to come to church and pushing them to and talking to them about forgiveness and all this and stuff, and then having it just be in their mind, just an idea. I want it to be not just in their mind. I want it to pour into their heart, and from their heart into their mind and into their spirit, and then that creates a way of living that is more in alignment with God versus just going out there yelling at people or preaching to people and forcing the Bible on them when they don't already believe in it. So why are you going to push them into something they don't believe? Rather than, I say it's more important for me. I speak for myself to show them in my actions, in how I live, and how I live, so that they could see, okay, there's something about it. What is it? It's God.
Yeah, and that's beautifully said. I mean, it has to be love and relationship to really change somebody's heart, and that's what God has with us. And if we're going to reflect God's love and His relationship on us, then we have to reflect that same thing on other people. Yeah. Right. Beautifully said. Man, I mean, like
we don't do that to people, right? You don't meet someone in the street and you're like, wow, it's a beautiful woman. Marry me. Let's go to the church.
Exactly.
Let's go to the church right now and let's get married. Like, oh, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, you're married, but is there a relationship there?
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Man, I appreciate you stopping by today, man. Just what a great conversation that we have. How can people support you? Where can they find you on social media? All those good things. What's your shirt? Is that your brand?
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you, what's the deal with this La Familia stuff?
I love that shirt.
La
man.
Familia.
Where can I go buy one?
The link is on the description of every video, or there's a store on the channel. But yeah, La Familia is just building a community of people supporting one another. We have a Discord channel where people can come and ask for prayer or offer prayer to other people. You can get private prayer with the prayer team, or you can just post it publicly and then have everybody pray. We're amplifying the power of prayer, which is something that I've been doing on some videos, asking people, like, if you have a prayer, make it in the comment section, and just wanting other people to offer prayer for those people, lift them up. I'm not too active on Instagram anymore, or on other social media. I'm really focusing on YouTube. So the best way to support is just to either subscribe and watch the videos. That's the
What's the YouTube channel?
The YouTube channel is Leonardo Torres Music. Leonardo Torres Music. But you could just type non-Christian reacts to, and
there you are.
You'll see me crying.
I told our maintenance superintendent about you coming on in our staff meeting this morning, and he was just like, "Oh man, like, I've been following that guy for a long time." He was super excited. I almost invited him in here just so you guys could talk, because he was super excited and was just talking about all these different videos, even the ones I haven't seen, and so he's like a super fan, man. So shout out to Jimmy. He's one of our
shout out Jimmy.
Yeah, shout out to Jimmy. Well, very good, man. Thanks for stopping by. If you haven't checked his videos out, go out, man. I think we're in 17 different countries now, and in 27 different states here in the United States. So God is able to use your story in all over the world right now, and that's what my prayer is, that somebody heard something today. If you had to talk to somebody right now what would you just share your heart and let the people know how whatever God put on your heart right now, just to close this thing out.
Well, I know that we live in a cold world, and I know that we live in a world that's full of violence and hatred and anger, and I know that sometimes it seems like it's not fair, and sometimes it's not. But just learn to be still. Stay in that stillness. There's also love in the world, and it's in you. And if you tap into that, if you are still enough and you let God love you and pour His love into you, let it just keep pouring, and let it pour out of your heart, so that when you meet someone at the grocery store is having a bad day, even a simple little smile can turn things around. It might be cold, but you have some warmth, and if you offer warmth to the world, you could start tipping the scales in favor of love and in favor of peace, and in favor of, well, when we talk about love and we talk about peace, we're talking about God. So you tip the scales in favor of God, and the dark one gets a little bit more light shine on him, and less darkness in the world.
Very good. Awesome. All right, man. Well, thanks for stopping by, and we love you.
This is the Refuge Project.